Hello there and welcome to Network Africa on Channels Television with me, Cynthia. We've got a great lineup for you. First up on the program, the number of people displaced globally reaches a whopping 60 million. Then Chad carries out airstrikes on Boko Haram bases in Nigeria. Later on in the program, the United Nations is far from pleased with the president of the world's newest country. Well, to start things off, we're looking at what's happening concerning the figures of refugees. June the 20th is World Refugee Day, and ahead of that, the United Nations Refugee Agency, UNHCR, has released some figures that are very disturbing. According to the agency, the number of people displaced by war, conflict, or persecution has reached a record high of nearly 60 million around the world in 2014. What this means is that the number of people forced to flee their homes rose by 8.3 million from the previous year.
We have to announce that in 2014, we have, at the end, a number of displaced persons by conflict of 59.5 million, what represents an increase of 16% in relation to 2013 and an increase of 60% in relation to 10 years ago.
UN High Commissioner for Refugees, Antonio Guterres. Now, just so you have a better understanding of where exactly those refugees are coming from, here are the numbers. Now, the first and the highest is coming from Syria with over 7.6 million. The next is Colombia with over 6 million, and then Iraq with over 3.2 million. When we get to the Democratic Republic of Congo, we see the numbers standing at well over 2.8 million. In Somalia, that's 1.17 million people who've been displaced. Now, in Afghanistan, the number is 964,200. In Myanmar, it's over 662,000. In India, it's over 616,000. In Azerbaijan, it's 568,892. In Libya, it's about 400,000. And Ethiopia, 396,100. That's the number of refugees who've been displaced as regards the countries from which they fled. We're joined from Pretoria by Tina Gelly, the Senior Regional External Relations Officer for the UNHCR. Tina, thank you very much for joining us on the program.
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, we'd like to kindly tell us, Tina, how is the UNHCR managing the situation?
Yeah, thank you, Cynthia. Well, I mean, obviously, it's overwhelming. We have so many wars resulting in so many refugees and internally displaced people, and therefore we have a lot of needs in terms of providing humanitarian assistance, and the needs far outweigh the resources available. So we're doing the best that we can, but obviously there's a gap in terms of what we can do to assist all of these people.
Now, based on the gap which you just mentioned, Tina, what kind of support are you getting or do you anticipate getting to handle this better?
Yes, well, we hope that the donor community will respond. We've seen a response so far in places especially where they're in the public eye, like the displacement from Syria and the other major conflicts around the world. But there are also what we call protracted refugee conflicts with refugees from other countries, such as Eritrea, that have been going on for a long time, that aren't so much in the spotlight, and where we also have a challenge to meet all the needs just because of, you know, that the funds available are so limited.
Now, just before I let you go, Tina, could you give us a better understanding about the challenges which the refugees themselves are facing?
Yeah, well, I mean, with all these numbers, I think it's been reported quite widely that we're often, you know, we're seeing a shrinking of the protection space. Basically, that means that many countries don't want to open their doors to the people fleeing these conflicts. and therefore you have challenges like what we see on the Mediterranean Sea and other parts of the world as well. So that's a huge challenge, trying to ensure that countries will still receive these people. Another huge challenge is the issue of xenophobia and the people not wanting to welcome into their communities refugees who fled there. So those are the big challenges that we have these days.
Well, Tina, we'll definitely be reaching out to you in future. Thank you so much for joining us on Network Africa.
Thank you so much for having me.
Tina Gelly is the Senior Regional External Relations Officer for the United Nations Refugees Agency. Coming up, Chad has its revenge on Boko Haram for an attack carried out on Monday, which left 27 people dead. Details in a moment. Please stay with us.